Patricia worked as a public school teacher for 32 years. For 11 of those years, her Social Security check was smaller than it should have been, and she had no idea why. Then one day, she made a single phone call and asked one question. Weeks later, a payment for $14,260 landed in her account. This isn't a one-time story. Millions of retirees are in the exact same situation right now, and most of them don't know it. In this video, I'll show you the exact question Patricia asked, why the government won't call to tell you this money exists, and the 3 steps that decide whether you get paid or get left waiting. Let's back up for a second, because to understand why Patricia's phone call was worth $14,260, you first need to understand what was quietly happening to her check for over a decade. This story starts on January 5, 2025. On that day, the president signed a bill called the Social Security Fairness Act. It sounds like a small headline. It was not. This one bill erased 2 rules that had been cutting Social Security checks for 43 years. 43 years. Over 1,000 people a day were having their benefits reduced because of these 2 rules. And most of them had no idea why. I want you to hold on to that number for a moment, because it matters. If a rule has been quietly shrinking checks for over 4 decades, there is a very good chance it touched someone you know. Maybe it touched you. So let's talk about what these 2 rules actually did, because once you understand them, you will understand exactly why Patricia's check was wrong, why Margaret's check was wrong, and why your check, or your parents' check, or your neighbor's check might be wrong too. Here's where things get interesting. So what exactly was this rule, and why did so many people never even know it existed? Let's break it down in simple terms. The first rule was called the Windfall Elimination Provision. Most people just call it WEP. Here is what it did in plain language. Some jobs in America do not pay into Social Security. Teachers in certain states, police officers, firefighters, and some federal workers usually have their own pension system instead. That is completely normal. Nothing wrong with that. But here is where it gets complicated. Many of those same people also worked other jobs at some point in their life. A summer job, a second career, part-time work after retiring from teaching. Those other jobs did pay into Social Security. So when it came time to calculate their Social Security benefit, the government looked at their record and said, this person also has a pension from a job that didn't pay into Social Security, so we are going to apply a different formula, a smaller formula, one that treats their earnings as worth less than they actually were. That is the Windfall Elimination Provision. And for 43 years, it quietly reduced checks for over 3 million Americans. Here is what made this rule so frustrating for the people it affected. It was not written in a letter that showed up in the mail explaining, your check is smaller because of the Windfall Elimination Provision. It was simply built into the math behind the number you saw on your monthly statement. Most people never questioned it, because there was nothing to compare it to. You do not know your check is 40% smaller than it should be, if nobody ever tells you what it should be in the first place. That is exactly what happened to Patricia, and it is likely happening right now to someone watching this video. Now remember Patricia. She spent 32 years as a public school teacher. Her teaching job had its own pension system, so it never paid into Social Security. But Patricia also worked other jobs during her life. Jobs where she did pay in. When she went to claim her Social Security benefit, this rule kicked in. Her check came in at $1,240 a month. She was expecting $1,900. She looked at the number, assumed she had done the math wrong somewhere, and simply accepted it. For 11 years, Patricia lived on a check that was 40% smaller than it should have been. That is $660 a month, every single month, for over a decade. Nobody from Social Security called her. Nobody sent a letter explaining the rule. She just quietly received less money than she had earned for 11 straight years. But that's only part of the story. As unfair as that first rule was, the second one had an even bigger impact on thousands of families. The second rule this new law eliminated is called the Government Pension Offset, or GPO. And in my opinion, this one is even harder to hear about, because it did not target retirees who worked. It targeted widows and widowers. Here is how it worked. If your spouse passed away and they had paid into Social Security, you were supposed to be able to collect a survivor benefit based on their record. That benefit exists for one reason: to help replace the income you lost when your husband or wife died. But if you also received a pension from a job that did not pay into Social Security, the government pension offset rule stepped in. It took 2/3 of your pension amount and subtracted that number directly from your survivor benefit. Let's make that real with numbers, because this is where it gets shocking. Say your pension was $1,500 a month. 2/3 of that is $1,000. The rule subtracted that full $1,000 from your survivor benefit. If your survivor benefit was $900 a month, that subtraction wiped it out completely. You received $0 from your husband or wife's entire Social Security record. This happened to 800,000 widows and widowers. Not a reduced check, a completely eliminated benefit. There was a woman named Margaret in Pennsylvania. Her husband, Robert, worked in the private sector for 42 years and paid into Social Security the entire time. Margaret worked for the state of Pennsylvania and had her own state pension. When Robert passed away after 43 years of marriage, Margaret filed for her survivor benefit. Based on Robert's record, she expected $1,440 a month. The Social Security Administration approved her at $900 a month. Then the government pension offset calculation ran automatically. Margaret's pension was $730 a month. 2/3 of that is $487. That amount was subtracted from her $900 benefit. Her final survivor check came out to $413 a month. She was supposed to receive $1,440. She received $413. That is a difference of over $1,000 every single month, on an income that had just lost its primary earner. For 52 years, Margaret lived on that reduced check. She cut her spending. She stretched every dollar. She assumed the system had simply done the math, and this was what was available to her. Stay with me, because what happened next to both of these women is the entire reason I'm making this video. What happened next changed everything. Then everything changed. The law was finally updated, but for many people, their money didn't move with it. On January 5th, 2025, both of these rules were completely eliminated. Not reduced, not phased out slowly, gone. And here is the part almost nobody understands. The Social Security Administration did not automatically fix every account. Patricia's check the next month came in at exactly the same reduced amount it always had, because the government does not fix what you do not ask them to fix. Patricia only found out because her daughter works in finance and saw something on the news about the new law. She called her mother and told her to check her account. Patricia logged in, saw the old reduction was still showing, and called the Social Security Administration to ask about it. They found the error. They recalculated her benefit. Her monthly check went up by $660. And then they told her something she was not expecting. Because the law was retroactive to January 2024, they owed her back pay covering that entire period. Patricia received a single lump sum payment of $14,260. And her check going forward is $660 higher every single month for the rest of her life. If Patricia lives to 90, that adds up to more than $158,000. All because she made one phone call and asked one question. Margaret's story ended the same way. She saw a post on a retirement forum about the new law and almost didn't call because she assumed it wouldn't apply to her. She called anyway, just to ask. The representative confirmed her government pension offset had been eliminated. They recalculated her survivor benefit back to the full $900 a month. Then they issued her a retroactive lump sum of $9,720, covering the same January 2024 start date. Her check is now $487 higher every month, which comes out to an extra $5,844 a year, for the rest of her life. 2 women, 2 phone calls, 2 questions. A combined total of nearly $24,000 in back pay, plus over $1,100 a month in permanent increases between them. Now comes the part that surprises most people. Now, this isn't just about Patricia and Margaret anymore. Their stories are only the beginning. Here is where this stops being a story about 2 individual women and becomes something you need to pay attention to for yourself. Congress tried to repeal these 2 rules for 4 decades. Over 300 separate bills were introduced. Teacher unions testified. Police departments sent letters. Federal employee groups showed up to Congress year after year. Not one of those 300 bills passed until January 5, 2025. That means for 43 years, 3.2 million Americans had reduced checks, and 800,000 widows and widowers had eliminated survivor benefits because of rules that were buried deep in the Social Security Code. Now that the law has changed, the government owes every single affected person the difference between what they received and what they should have received, going all the way back to January 2024. The average retroactive lump sum payment issued so far is $6,710. Some people are owed over $22,000. The average permanent monthly increase is $360, which comes out to more than $4,300 extra per year, every year, for the rest of that person's retirement. The total amount owed under this law is estimated at $96 billion over the next 10 years, according to the Congressional Budget Office. $96 billion sitting in the system right now, belonging to people who already earned it. But here is the catch, and it is the reason I am asking you to stay until the end of this video. The Social Security Administration has more than 4 million individual accounts that need to be manually reviewed and corrected. They are working through these cases in batches. If your case, or your parents' case, falls toward the bottom of that batch, it simply waits, sometimes for months, and during that entire time, you keep receiving the old, reduced amount. No letter, no phone call, no explanation. In their own 2025 report, the Social Security Administration's Inspector General flagged this exact problem. In plain language, that means a large number of people have not received their correction yet, and most of them have no idea their case is even sitting in a queue. Think about what that actually means for a moment. There are people right now, in 2026, still collecting a smaller Social Security check than they are legally owed, simply because their file has not reached the front of the line yet. There are people who already received a one-time lump sum payment, but whose ongoing monthly amount is still calculated using the old, reduced formula. And there are people who qualified for corrections under both rules, the Windfall Elimination Provision and the government pension offset, but only had one of the 2 actually applied to their record. None of these situations fix themselves. Every one of them requires a phone call from the person affected, or from someone who cares about them. Now you may be wondering if any of this applies to you. Let's take a look at the people who are most likely to benefit from these changes. I want to walk through 4 groups of people, because if you fall into any one of these, this law applies directly to you. Group 1. You worked as a public school teacher, especially in one of these states: Alaska, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Massachusetts, Missouri, Nevada, Ohio, Rhode Island, or Texas. And at some point in your working life, you also had a job where you paid into Social Security. Group 2. You worked as a firefighter, a police officer, or any state or local government employee in one of those same states, and you also paid into Social Security through other work at some point in your career. Group 3. You are a federal employee who was hired before January 1st, 1984. And you were enrolled in the Civil Service Retirement System. That is often written as CSARS. If you are not sure which retirement system you were under, check your old federal benefits paperwork, or call your former agency's Human Resources Office directly. Group 4. You are a widow or widower whose spousal or survivor benefit was reduced or completely eliminated, because you also receive a government pension. If any one of those four groups describes you, or someone in your life, there is a real chance that money is sitting on an account right now, waiting to be claimed. Now, before we get to the 3 steps, I want to pause on something important, because this is exactly the kind of situation scammers love to take advantage of. Whenever a real government program involves back pay, missing money, or a rule change, criminals show up right behind it pretending to help. You may see ads, phone calls, or even text messages claiming they can speed up your Social Security Fairness Act payment for a fee, or asking you to confirm your bank account details to release your correction. Here is the truth. There is no fee. Nobody legitimate will ever ask you to pay money to receive money you are already owed. The only source you should ever trust for this is the Social Security Administration directly, using the phone number and website I am about to give you. Keep that in mind as we go through the next part, because I am going to walk you through exactly what a real, official call to Social Security sounds like. Now let me show you exactly what to do. If you think any of this sounds familiar, here are the 3 steps you should take today. Here is what most people get wrong. They hear about this law, they feel hopeful for a moment, and then they do nothing, because they assume the correction will happen automatically. It usually does not. So let's walk through exactly what to do, step by step. Step 1. Go to ssa.gov and log into your My Social Security account. If you have never created one, it takes about 10 minutes, and you will need your Social Security number and a valid email address. Once you are logged in, open your benefit statement and look at your current monthly amount. Then look specifically for a line labeled WEPO. If you see a reduction listed there, and your monthly benefit has not increased since January 2025, your correction has not been completed yet. Your case is still sitting in the queue. Step 2. Call the Social Security Administration directly at 1-800-772-1213. When an agent answers, use this exact phrase: "I want to verify whether my account has been fully corrected under the Social Security Fairness Act for WEP or GPO." Writing that sentence down before you dial matters, because that specific wording tells the agent exactly which system to check and which correction history to pull up. They will be able to tell you immediately whether your case is closed, still pending, or has not been assigned yet. If it is pending, ask for the expected processing time frame and ask them to note that you called to follow up. If they tell you it is closed, but you believe the amount is still wrong, say this phrase: "I would like to file a formal request for reconsideration." That specific request triggers a supervisor-level review of your entire correction record, not just a standard callback. Step 3 is specifically for widows and widowers, and this is the step that decides whether you receive your full back payment or whether it quietly expires unclaimed. If your survivor benefit was not just reduced, but completely eliminated by the government pension offset, do not assume the correction happened automatically when the law passed. In many of these cases, the original survivor benefit application was denied outright, not reduced. That means the system has no approved claim on file to correct. There is nothing to reverse, because nothing was ever approved in the first place. In situations like that, you have to file a brand new application. When you call the Social Security Administration, ask this exact question: "Does my case require a new survivor benefit application under the Social Security Fairness Act?" That one question is the difference between receiving your back payment and having it sit unclaimed indefinitely. This is where many retirees make a costly mistake. Before you make that call, let's go over the mistakes that can delay or even prevent your payment. Before we move on, I want to cover a few mistakes that I keep hearing about from people who reach out to this channel, because avoiding these can save you weeks of frustration. The first mistake is assuming that because your last check looked normal, everything must already be fixed. Remember, the correction does not happen automatically just because the law passed. Your check can look exactly the same as it did last year, and last month, and the month before that, even though you are owed thousands of dollars in back pay. The only way to know for sure is to check your account or make the call. The second mistake is calling once, getting a vague answer, and giving up. Sometimes the first representative you speak with may not have full details on your case, especially if it has not been assigned to a reviewer yet. That does not mean nothing is happening. It means you need to ask the specific questions I gave you, write down the date you called and who you spoke with, and follow up again in a few weeks if you do not hear anything. The third mistake is assuming this only applies to people who are still working or who recently retired. It does not. It applies just as much to someone who retired 15 years ago, or someone who has been receiving a reduced survivor benefit for over 50 years. Like Margaret, there is no expiration date on asking the question. If the reduction is still showing on your account today, it is worth checking today. Here's something most people don't realize. The biggest question is why this money can sit there for months without anyone saying a word. Here is the piece that I think explains everything about how this system works. The Social Security Administration is not actively trying to hand you money. They are processing millions of cases in order, following their internal procedures. If you never ask about your case, if you never verify the correction was actually applied, the money simply stays where it is. It does not move on its own. It does not earn interest while it waits. It just sits there. That is the entire reason Patricia's story matters. She did not get that $14,260 because someone at the Social Security Administration proactively reviewed her file and decided she deserved it. She got it because her daughter saw a news story, made a phone call to her mother, and Patricia asked one question. Margaret's story is the same. She almost did not call because she assumed the law would not apply to her. She called anyway. That single decision was worth $9,720 up front and nearly $6,000 more every single year for the rest of her life. Now it's time to put everything into action. Let's finish with a simple action plan you can follow starting today. So here is what I want you to do this week. Not next month. This week, because every day your case sits uncorrected is another day you are receiving less than you are actually owed. First, go to ssa.gov, log into your My Social Security account, and look at your benefit statement for any line marked WEP or GPO. Second, if you see one of those reductions and your check has not gone up since January 2025, call 1-800-772-1213 and use the exact phrase I gave you. I want to verify whether my account has been fully corrected under the Social Security Fairness Act for WEP or GPO. Third, if you are a widow or widower whose survivor benefit was reduced or eliminated, ask directly whether your case requires a brand new survivor benefit application. And finally, if this applies to you, or if you think it might apply to someone you love, a parent, a retired teacher, a widow down the street, a former police officer, do not wait for them to find out on their own. Tell them today. One conversation, like the one Patricia's daughter had with her, can be worth thousands of dollars. Let's bring this back to where we started. Patricia spent 11 years receiving a smaller check than she had earned, and she never knew why. One phone call fixed that, and it paid her $14,260 up front, plus $660 more every single month for the rest of her life. Margaret went 52 years without her full survivor benefit, and one question turned into $9,720 in back pay, plus nearly $500 more every month going forward. Millions of Americans are in the exact same position right now. The law has already changed. The money has already been approved. The only thing missing is the phone call. If this video helped you understand something you did not know before, do one simple thing for me. Send it to one person you love who is over 60 and receiving Social Security right now. That one share could be the reason someone finally logs into their account or finally picks up the phone. It could put thousands of dollars back where it belongs. If you are not subscribed to this channel yet, now is a good time to do that and turn on the notification bell. Every single week, I break down changes to Social Security, Medicare, and retirement benefits that almost nobody explains in plain language. These are not videos designed to scare you. They are designed to make sure you are never the last person to find out about money that already belongs to you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Check your account, make the call, and I will see you in the next video.